and he is playing the new hotness with Return to Ravnica,
yes,
which is bug control. We've seen this deck popularized by all sorts of people.
Yeah, geez, Jerry Thompson, Brian Bronduan, Reed Duke, just a lot of people big fans of bug control.
Basically, the reason to move in this direction is the combination of Deathrite Shaman and Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay handling a lot of the troublesome permanents that you find in Legacy. Counterbalance most prevalent, but there's a million other things as well. For example, I cut Sulfuric Vortex out of my burn deck because of Abrupt Decay.
Gotta go.
And Deathrite Shaman, which is just a super versatile, super powerful enabler for a variety of strategies. He is not playing the Shardless Agent Ancestral Visions version. He's just playing Tarmogoyf, Deathrite Shaman, Snapcaster Mage, Vendilion Click. He has a copy of Loam, Thought Seizes, and an Inquisition. He has a Disfigure in his deck.
Interesting.
Yep.
Not a card you see. Not a card you actually see very often.
Is that the enchantment?
Disfigure, I believe, is the enchantment. We'll actually bring that up for you guys. It's either the enchantment, or I believe it is the instant that does -2/-2. Okay, it is the instant that does -2/-2. So a little surprised to see that in this deck. I can't. The enchantment is dead weight.
Dead weight.
Dead weight.
I was gonna say dead weight maybe because you have Goyf and you have Loam, so you're milling yourself over. I thought, but
I remember dead weight coming back with Sun Titan. To ruin some of my fun a few months ago in the old standard format. But we do see both players underway here. Jonathan did lead off with a Volcanic Island and a Ponder. Bryan starting the show with a Misty Rainforest. That's going to find him a basic forest to dodge the wastelands that Jonathan can play here. Jonathan, of course, having 4 copies of those. And we saw in our last match, Mark Lalagu had 3 copies of Stifle. Jonathan has 4.
Yep.
So cracking those fetch lands now a good idea.
I was about to make some sort of snide remark about how this guy can afford to put basic lands in his deck because of the mana base of bug control. He's actually not playing him, so his mana base is a lot more stable than some of the other builds.
Gotcha. And so we will see Jonathan draw a card here, and he actually does draw the Stifle that was just mentioned. You'll see a Scalding Tarn come here. You will see a Delver of Secrets there. We'll see Jonathan just going to pass the turn back. Another card that you're going to find in Jonathan's hand is just a 1 copy, a singleton in his deck list of Fire and Ice. The other singletons in his deck list are Thought Scour and a Dismember. So a couple bullets here, not as many as Mark had, but one thing, Patrick, that is kind of interesting that you do find here is that there are 2 copies of Grim Lovemancer in Jonathan's deck list, and you will find only 3 copies of Nimble Mongoose, and with Abrupt Decay being so prevalent, Nimble Mongoose is really, its stock has risen, and Jonathan only has 3 of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible Nimble Mongoose has gotten worse because of Deathrite Shaman.
Sure.
It's just much harder to get the threshold now than it used to be. But yeah, it's a weird squeeze, right? Like, if my opponent's got Abrupt Decay, then I want a bunch of Mongooses, and if my opponent has a bunch of Deathrite Shamans, it's the last card I want.
Yeah.
So it's a weird squeeze.
We do see Jonathan here sacking the Scalding Tarn on the end step. And we are going to see a end of turn Brainstorm, looking to get that Delver of Secrets set up, so it's going to flip into Insectile Aberration and just get some more information for his following turn.
Yep, and Bryan appears to be at the ready with Abrupt Decay, so
no surprise.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot of that probably today. Between Jund having such a fantastic performance last weekend and Bug still being a popular deck in the format, we are going to see quite a few Abrupt Decays today. As we do see Brainstorm revealed to Delver of Secrets, flipping that over into Insectile Aberration. That'll be Jonathan's draw for the turn. And it looks like he is going to come across for 3 in just a moment. Okay. There is the Abrupt Decay.
Aberration down. I assume we're going to see maybe a little Goyf Wasteland sequence here.
That's what it feels like to me, too. Going to get that land taken care of. Let's see if he does have a Tarmogoyf there. And it looks like he does.
Yep.
So Tarmogoyf is going to come into play unless there's a Force of Will, which it doesn't look to be.
I think he has another Abrupt Decay.
And he does have a Misty Rainforest here. And he does sack that right away.
Always have to be conscious of Stifle.
Yeah, definitely just, it's a legacy staple, especially when you're playing against Rug Delver. It might not be 4 copies like Jonathan has, but there's normally at least a couple copies looming throughout that deck list.
Right.
So waiting can be the ultimate punishment. And you do see an Underground Sea here from Bryan.
I assume we're going to be decaying again shortly.
Present his deck over to Jonathan. You see a 4/5 Tarmogoyf there on the table for Jonathan. Not sure for how much longer.
He just sends the turn back.
Jonathan going to take a draw step. Finds another Tarmogoyf. Fortunate draw there.
Yep.
As he's already made his way through one Abrupt Decay, he's going to make his way through a second one, and that'll take care of that. And now it's on Bryan, it looks like, to have a third one. Again, there is no guarantee that Jonathan is going to cast Tarmogoyf here because Daze does loom in these decks sometimes.
Sure.
But he does make the attempt there, and it does resolve.
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue that the Rug Delver deck has. It's actually pretty light on action. So, you know, if you're able to fend off the first creature or two, often it's just a bunch of cantrips and like a lightning bolt. It's like hard to get yourself back in the game.
Yeah.
So that Tarmogoyf was a huge draw.
As we do see a Brainstorm here from Bryan in his main phase. Going to get as much information as he can. Probably do the Brainstorm shuffle away trick as well. And then continue on with his turn and see what route he wants to take. As Patrick, he does have a Jace the Mind Sculptor in his hand, but can he get there and actually have an impact on the game?
Well, I think what he can do right now is just try to get. It appears to have like Deathrite Shaman in hand plus sufficient lands plus Jace. So, and he's just drawn a Thoughtseize. So I think the ideal sequencing here is to lead with Thoughtseize, maybe get a basic Swamp here. Maybe you want to get another Underground Sea. I'm not sure how much you care about playing around all the wastelands. Thoughtseize him, see what's going on, and then cast the Deathrite Shaman, and that probably enables Jace the following turn.
And you are going to see him search out a basic Swamp again because Bryan's not playing Hypnotoric. His mana base is a little bit better as he has one basic Forest, one basic Island, and one basic Swamp, so he can actually work his way around Wasteland.
Right.
And now you are going to see that aforementioned Thoughtseize. Jonathan shows a hand of Stifle, which Bryan has correctly been playing around. Lightning Bolt, Fire Ice, and Brainstorm.
Yeah, it's a little rough here because there's nothing that Bryan can take out of his hand to ensure that both Jace and Deathrite Shaman stick. You know, because he has 2 removal spells. So I'd actually be surprised if he takes Brainstorm here and just tries to slog through the 2 removal spells.
And as you do see Bryan take a look at Fire Ice, we will bring it up on the screen for you guys, for you newer players out there. I know Patrick and I are intimately familiar with Fire Ice, but some people are not. And we can see a Deathrite Shaman here as well.
So I guess the hope here is that he untaps, fires your Deathrite Shaman, and then you can go Jace unsummon, and his hand isn't equipped to handle that.
Let's see what Jonathan draws there. I think that's a reasonable line.
I think that's totally fine.
Now the bad thing here for Bryan is Jonathan does come across with that Tarmogoyf, knocking Bryan down to 13, is that if Jonathan is to draw a land here, then he can actually stifle the Jace bounce, as you do see Fire here. But it really is dependent on him having land. He actually does have a land here for Scalding Tarn. So if Bryan does pull the trigger on Jace and tries to bounce the Tarmogoyf, you can see a Stifle on that activation, and then Tarmogoyf go to work on that Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Right.
And there is the old Fire Ice. Probably the best split card, would you say?
I like a Pain Suffering. In terms of power, yeah. Sorry for the way I like the way the graphic is laid out there, where you just like kind of tilt your head to the side.
Yeah. Get a good look at it. We see a Thoughtseize here. Jonathan going to crack that Scalding Tarn. You're going to see a Vendilion click right away. This is a good setup here.
Oh yeah. So we get to take Brainstorm and then Thoughtseize the Stifle.
Yeah, Brainstorm going to go to the bottom.
Or I guess now we resolve the fetch.
Yep, now we resolve the fetch, and then we'll resolve the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome sequencing there by Bryan. I mean, there's still a lot of draw steps he has to be wary of from Jonathan here.
Absolutely.
But this is a very good sequence in terms of trying to get his Jace online, which is the most important thing. Game's very easy once he's able to accomplish that.
Yeah, agreed. Jace will take care of the Tarmogoyf for a moment. A little moment of temporary reprieve. You can see a Brainstorm here, and then that could take care of some things, as we do see Jonathan taking a quick look at Thoughtseize. And Jonathan actually drew Daze.
It's pretty sweet.
Off of the Vendilion click trigger, which is kind of interesting if he wants to daze this or hold that daze. Or make Bryan make the decision on, do you want Daze or do you want Stifle? Now, how do you feel about this line of play?
I think it seems better to just daze the Thoughtseize and then hold up Stifle, because like next turn if he just takes Stifle here and then has another land, I guess is Bryan down to 1 card in hand? Yeah. Oh, okay, so now it's 1 card in hand. Then yeah, this sequence is fine, right?
No, of course, Jonathan doesn't know the last card is Chase the Mind Sculptor. You know, we have the information, you guys have the information at home, but he doesn't know that. Jonathan is going to take a draw step, draws Delver of Secrets for the turn. Tarmogoyf's going to come across here.
I mean, I think him taking Bolt and leading you with Fire Ice Brainstorm is a pretty strong representation.
So now you see that Jonathan's last card is Stifle, which Bryan does know. Bryan actually draws the land, so if he would have taken the Daze here, if he would have taken the Stifle, he would have been better off.
Right.
We do see
which
in general, Mind Sculptor coming into play.
In general, I think that your default there should be taking a to take the Stifle, because if his hand is just Daze, then your land's a good draw and your spells are a good draw.
Yep.
By leaving him just with Stifle, then you have a range of bad draws. Okay, he's just going to allow that to happen. Just allow the unsummon to occur.
A little surprised by letting that go through.
Right.
It feels like a perfect tempo type play to stifle that, make the Jace irrelevant, because now the Jace is becoming relevant very, very quickly.
Right.
As you do see Tarmogoyf come back down, Jonathan actually drew another Tarmogoyf. So what you could have seen last turn is the Delver and the Tarmogoyf come in to Bryan. He actually would have drawn Tarmogoyf, plays it, and he doesn't have the Stifle anymore. But then Bryan is staring down 2 Tarmogoyfs.
Right.
And then Jace's unsummon ability isn't going to get the job done at that point. But we'll see what Bryan's able to cobble together with that Jace. He's going to unsummon Tarmogoyf. Are we going to see the Stifle this time? And we are.
Yep.
You see Wasteland going to take care of that green source. Now that was another interesting play there.
Right.
So if you're Bryan, you can Wasteland. He can Wasteland his open blue source, force Jonathan to float, move to your attack step, clear the mana pool, and then bounce the Tarmogoyf.
Yep.
If you want to have that reprieve, as we do see a Delver of Secrets here. Now Bryan is going to take a draw step and he's going to concede the game.
So on that last turn there, you saw Jonathan Thought Scour Bryan. The reason for that was the Goyf was a 4/5 and Bryan's at 5. So if Jonathan mills over a Planeswalker or an artifact or an enchantment or something, he actually turns his Goyf into lethal that turn.
Yep. But Jonathan drove up a game here with his Rug Delver deck against Bryan and his Bug Control deck. And of course, Patrick, you do have the Bug Control deck list in front of you. What kind of help do we have in the sideboard? Any 5th through 8th Abrupt Decays?
Well, he has 2 copies of Nile Spellbomb, which are pretty awesome. 2 copies of Duress. 2 copies of Pernicious Deed, which I like in the matchup. And another Spell Pierce if he wants to go down that road. So okay. He's got, another Force of Will, but I actually think Force of Will is fairly bad in the matchup.
Agreed.
Golgari Charm's not doing too much. Engineer Plague, Dark Blast, Surgical Extraction. I mean, you can try to do the Wasteland Surgical Extraction thing, I guess, but he's only on 3 Wasteland. Bryan's only on 3 Wastelands anyway, so I don't think that's a primary plan of his.
Now, Golgari Charm, is kind of interesting in this matchup, I think. And the reason I say that is because if you take a look at Jonathan's deck list, there's 3 Nimble Mongeese, there are 4 copies of Delver Secrets, and there's 2 Grim Lavamancers. So it is very perfect worldy, but there is, the chance that you do catch 2 creatures with the -1/-1 ability on Golgari Charm.
Yeah,
I don't think it's impossible, but it's probably a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I think that's a challenging path to pursue. This is basically a 2-mana removal spell for 1 mana threats and only in a very time-sensitive window. So, yeah, what you're describing could certainly happen, but I think over time it would be bad for him to have Golgari Charm in his deck.
as we take a look here at Jonathan's deck list, there are 2 copies of Rough Tumble in his sideboard. Can't imagine those joining us. A copy of Sulfur Elemental, more of a Lingering Souls type card, so that'll probably stay on the bench. Sylvan Library, I think we'll see joining us because this is a bit more of a grindy matchup.
Right.
So having that effect and that manipulation is certainly going to be useful. A copy of Spell Snare to be able to take care of Jace the Mind Sculptor. 3 copies of Submerge, which I actually like quite a bit here. You're also going to find 2 copies of Ancient Grudge, 2 copies of Pyroblast, and 3 copies of Surgical Extraction. So I would not be surprised to see the 3 copies of Submerge join us. The Sylvan Library, maybe an additional, Spell Snare. That'll spell Pierce. That may be coming as well.
Right. Yeah. Snare rather is quite good here against Goyf and Snapcaster Mage. So there's a couple targets. There's not a lot of targets in the deck, but the ones that there are quite good.
Yeah, and it is nice to see that he doesn't have the Spell Snare overload either. It's not like he's boarding in 3 or 4 of those and hoping that he catches the right threats. He just has the singleton one.
Yep. So that game seemed like Bryan had gotten into a reasonable spot there, and that Thoughtseize Vendilion Click sequencing was pretty nice. But I do think that he wanted to leave Daze instead of Cycle, because if you draw a spell there, you have a spell to cast, and most of the spells there are quite good.
Yep.
And if you draw a land, then you have Jason, you can pay for Daze, and all of a sudden, you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, then the game might just be a wrap because you also do have the Vendilion Click there to protect the Jace in the turn as well. So I think that sequencing may have been incorrect based on how the game played out. This is an interesting matchup. I think moving forward, you're going to see a lot of this match in the format. I don't really know if it leans one way or the other because both sides do seem to have a lot of good cards against each other.
Right, and it's also hard to say, what is Rug's matchup against Bug, because that, there's a million different ways you can build a Bug deck. So it depends a lot on the version. I assume the version with more basics and no him, probably better against Rug. I don't think hemming them is especially good. Mm-hmm. But, we saw Jonathan in game 1 basically be able to sneak that game out, in spite of, Bryan's 2 Abrupt Decays, so. That game certainly made it feel like the matchup was pretty good for Jonathan.
Yeah. The Rug deck, is always going to be on, the proactive, the initiative. It's never going to be really defending itself. That's what the Bug Control deck needs to do. And it does have the tools to do that, but the thing that's kind of neat about Rug Delver is it does present some interesting questions, and none of them are all the same.
Right.
That's what makes the deck really a good deck in Legacy.
Yeah, many angles of attack, and many pretty broad, sweeping answers to things your opponent can be doing. Bryan giving it a little shake, bounce back and forth with the hand. Both players keep. Bryan leads with a Ponder. Don't know if we're pondering for lands or for spells. We're about to find out as he's looking at a hand of Inquisition, Deathrite Shaman, and Spell Pierce.
He's giving that one a good long look, too.
All right, he's keeping him. Jonathan just going to fire off a Wasteland here.
We're going to see Misty Rainforest right away here. Now, one thing in Legacy, as we do see Misty Rainforest being resolved here by Bryan, Patrick, that is really, really interesting is, the turn 1 Wasteland your land and move forward and go back to that parity of no lands there. How do you ever feel that plays incorrect? Is it always correct? Is it always situation dependent? How do you feel about that?
Depends where your mana's at, and a lot of it, I think people wasteland too often when it represents their turn. Like, let's say on turn 2, you can either wasteland or play a land in Tarmogoyf.
Sure.
You're almost better off casting your Tarmogoyf and then wastelanding the following turn. In that sequence, I feel like you're happy to start the game over, and there's some chance that Bryan just can't function without that Underground Sea. So, since you're basically either wastelanding or just making your first turn play anyway, which you could make the second turn, which is effectively the first turn because both players got strip mines, it's worth the upside of him not being able to play without that Underground Sea.
Okay.
There I like it a lot, because the downside is very low and the upside is potentially very high.
Well, we'll see, because right now, it can come back to backfire, of course, because Bryan does have that Deathrite Shaman. It's going to let him accelerate. Jonathan does have a Lightning Bolt, and this looks like it's going to be a pretty good turn for him, and we are going to see a Grim Lavamancer. So that is another way to make this work out in his favor.
Yep.
Because it looks like he's only going to get one activation out of that Deathrite Shaman, so
Although,
it's going to have to be a good one.
I believe we just drew ourselves an Abrupt Decay. So
Okay.
Never mind.
And Abrupt Decay will take care of Grim Lavamancer for you, as you guys do see the old school Torment art on the screen.
And no land drop, which means either Bolt or Wasteland is just devastating for... Oh, we just drew Submerge, so we can actually submerge the Deathrite Shaman and then Wasteland him. Oh, no!
And we're going to bring Submerge up on the screen for you guys as well, too.
Bryan, no!
Oh, Daddy.
The humanity!
Jonathan, you didn't have to do him like that.
No, they didn't
Delver
have to be like
Secrets, is it going to
didn't
be?
have-
Oh, come
didn't have
on.
to be like this.
Come on, why is it? What's it about? This is America's finest city. You could be nice.
Yeah. You can't submerge a dude and then leave him with no lands. That's like, it's not okay.
Because we are going to see a ponder here from Jonathan. This is what you call the driver's seat.
Right.
It's cushy. It's comfy. No seatbelt, I don't think.
Yeah.
Just feeling good.
Yeah. See, that's the upside of that Wasteland, you know?
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed now. The upside of that Wasteland. Pretty good. As we do see Ponder resolve here. Delver Secret's going to come across.
The risk is low and the reward is high.
And then that's just, it really just exemplifies the power of Wasteland, too.
Yeah, I mean...
Unbelievable card.
And Bryan has just drawn his own.
And the tough thing for him now is that, Wastelanding here is, it's fine, but it's not great or anything.
Right, and Jonathan has like another Submerge in his hand, so if he draws... I guess he could Underground Sea into it, potentially, and another Wasteland. Jeez.
Well, if you ever wondered how he was able to take down that Legacy
Life from the
Open.
Loam. That is an insulting draw.
Yeah. If you ever wonder how Jonathan...
Get all your lands back.
take them out back so I can blow them all up again. There's Insectile Aberration coming across from 3 more, taking some large chunks out of Bryan's life. If you ever wondered how Jonathan Joe was able to take down his first championship with Rug Delver, I think you can tell right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's
solid play.
The decks that play into Wasteland are almost always bad against Rug.
Yeah.
Because there's no deck in the format that capitalizes on Wasteland better than this.
Yep. Not at all.
With your Dazes and your Pierces and all that kind of stuff.
And we are going to see a ponder here from Jonathan. 3 cards deep as we see a Brainstorm. I think we see another Submerge.
It's like a bunch of cantrips and Submerge.
Yeah. Ponder goes to the graveyard. Jonathan very content to pass the turn back, and understandably so. Abrupt Decay is the draw.
No more.
Bryan said, I've seen enough. Jonathan Joe moves on to 4-0. Winning 2-0 here against Bryan De La Torre with his Rug Delver deck.
And this is why, I'm not saying that my Legacy deck choices are optimal, but why I avoid playing decks that lose to Wasteland. Because it actually, if your deck is soft to Wasteland, it's almost guaranteed that, 5 or 7% of your games are going to be something like that. There's just no way to avoid it.
And those are the reasons that I play Goblins, a deck that has 24 lands, and Aether Vial, so it's a pretty land-heavy mana source deck. Or Charbelcher, which has 1 land. I don't want to lose to getting Wastelanded twice in a game. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, to me, it's if I hear player that wasn't very skilled beat player who was very skilled in a round of Legacy, guess what happened? My first guess is Wasteland.
Yeah.
So
multiple Wastelands, multiple games. But Jonathan Joe moving on to 4-0 for the day, looking to make another top 8 here. Jonathan, again, Star City Games Las Vegas Legacy champion last year. Also top 8 in the Invitational in California just last December. Going 10-0 in Standard in that tournament, too.
Yeah, top 4 to actually beat Leon Konecki in the elimination rounds.